Okay. Got the little dot that says I'm recording. Let's see how it looks on the YouTube. Okay, it seems to be working. Except for that little flash of light. Let's hope that changes. Put that down. Move that over here. A little bit of screen tearing. Very cool. Love it. Let's go up near home. World map. Sorry, we gotta change the time here. Let's see. Put this in the day sometimes so I can see. And let's take off out of Asheville here. Weight and balance, we're going to be full up. Another 200 pounds per passenger. We're getting some thick boys back here. Jeez. Okay, 600 per passenger. At 9,100. Do it 4 more times. See, sorry you guys can't see the best. I'm looking underneath the goggles. There we go, 95, 850. $99, I like it. Let's do it. Okay. Up here, or there. Let's fly. Set this to BR mode. Get that recentered. Get the head strap good. Okay, VR is not fully supported. Got that down. Governor's on. Okay, that feels good enough. So, let's start talking about this. Today we are in Asheville, in the area where the Hurricane Helene went through and messed up a whole bunch of people. And we are going to talk about a couple of videos that have been released of a first one that I saw was a Blackhawk, second one was a Chinook. But the United States, the North Carolina National Guard, is out and about running supplies to different secluded areas. And there is a very positive thing to that, being that the National Guard helicopters, such as the Blackhawk and such as the Chinook, can carry a significant amount more weight than any of the civilian helicopters that would have been taken off in the area. I'm showing connection lost. I'll wait a second, because I don't know if this will make it into the YouTube or not. I want to make sure that everything's heard and clear. There we go, successfully connected. Okay, so the Blackhawk and the Chinook, very, very capable helicopter platforms. The first week or so of all of the recovery efforts were going, majority of the missions that were being run were by civilian helicopters, such as Robinson R-44s, a lot of those out, as they are the most affordable civilian helicopter that also has any sort of payload capability, other than a couple of boxes of fruit snacks. A couple of MD-500s, like the one that Cletus had, MD-530, maybe one or two, handful of Bell 206s, Augusta 109s. Anyways, there's a handful of different things out there. But at the end of the day, most of those can only carry about 1,000 pounds of extra payload, which may seem like a good bit, but when you're supplying an entire neighborhood's worth of supplies, that does not last long. 1,000 pounds is not a lot of supplies. Speaking about water, I mean, it's how much, 8 pounds per gallon or something, and a normal person needs at least a gallon to drink every day, plus cleaning, sanitizing, any little thing, you know, cooking, all that takes water. So you burn through supplies like that very quickly. Also, when it gets to something bigger, like what was being delivered at the time of this video, was a whole bunch of generators. Those take up a lot of room. Guess what? Small helicopters don't have the room to give you generators. This right here, I'm flying a Huey. I don't have a Blackhawk model. I know there is a development company working on a Blackhawk model, but I don't have that yet. I'm going to wait till it's fully released, or just hit it in 2024 when the new sim comes out. But this Huey here has a pretty solid payload. I just upped the weight of the passenger, so I've got 4 850-pound passengers in the back. And there is still another 1,000 pounds or so left of payload capability of this helicopter. So, and it's a big helicopter too, so there's room to put bigger, heavier items like generators in. Blackhawk is a pretty hefty-sized helicopter. I think they can do about 10,000 pounds worth of payload. So 10,000 pounds plus a lot of room, you've got enough helicopter there to bring stuff that's actually in need to these people. A lot of these small towns are at the point now of turning down supplies. They don't have the room for it. The fire department, the church, the school, the garage that somebody has that's become a home point for people to, or out-of-towners to come in and bring in relief supplies. They are being turned away because there's no more room for it. They've been supplied out. You know, they have enough to last them for the foreseeable future for the stuff like non-perishable food items and things like that. Water will probably burn through quicker just because it takes up a lot of space for how much you use. But regardless, the things that people need now are usually bulky items, and stuff like military helicopters are optimal for that. So let's get to the videos. The videos that were getting passed around social media. One was a Blackhawk coming into a parking lot, we'll say like an Ingalls or a church or something of similar size, as far as parking area and building size, regardless. Another one was of a Chinook. The Chinook one showed up. I didn't see much complaints on that one after it, because there was a couple of seconds. Got another connection loss, so I'll wait. I'll yap a little bit. But I do enjoy flying these Carolina mountains. It's a very nice area. And for those of you that are wondering, I am fully up on the collective right now. It does not go any further up. Because I've got so much weight here, I need as much bite as I can. Oh, successfully connected. Okay, so now that we're back, so the video of the Chinook, I'll go over that one first since I don't have much to address on that. It was the Chinook, which is the twin rotor, 2 on the top, or twin main rotor, there's no tail rotor. OBS disconnected, waiting. I'll wait for a reconnection. OBS reconnection. Okay. So anyways, again, we are not having weather right now. This is strange. And we're back. So yeah, the rotor wash from the Chinook happened to knock over a handful of things in this parking lot. And if you waited until the last few seconds of what it showed in the video, it actually showed it flying over the parking lot, then going to land in a field nearby. So I assume the people that were the crew chief and the pilot and stuff were able to get out of the helicopter, and they were able to talk to the people there and explain like, hey, sorry we blew stuff over. They probably even helped clean it up. But you have to make very specific approaches with helicopters, especially when at or near the limits of what the payload is. Headwind, you know, you can't just descend straight down, and I cover that in one of the other streams, but I will cover it a bit again here. But yeah, so people were complaining about that one, but mostly because there was the Blackhawk video that had come out a few hours earlier. So let's talk about the Blackhawk video. It shows a Blackhawk circling above this supply station drop-off point, and it does a higher circle, a reconnaissance circle, and it does a lower reconnaissance circle, and then it comes in, and during the approach it's low enough to where it starts blowing over some of the lightweight pop-up tents that you would see at like a tailgating event or like a little town square festival where they have a vendor out doing something. And I like the look of that little field down there, so it's a whole good little valley here where we can explore this. So yeah, they did a high and low reconnaissance orbit, and then they came and made their approach. And during their approach, they noticed that a lot of the tents and supplies were getting blown around. People immediately looked at this and started calling a whole bunch of names and a whole bunch of actions because of the lack of support from FEMA and the way that they have been failing a bit during what's going on. So they were starting to say that this was an unmarked helicopter, that everybody inside was wearing a mask, and that it came down, blew over supplies on purpose, and then flew away. And while it may look like that, that isn't what happened. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit more now. So, was it an unmarked helicopter? No, military helicopters don't have bright white markings for their tail numbers or their identification numbers. There were markings on there, you can see it in some of the videos, so that's a busted myth there. The people were wearing masks. Yeah, they were. These helicopters will travel upwards of 140 miles an hour, if not more, especially the Blackhawks. And with the doors off or the windows open, it's hard to breathe with the wind batting around like that, and you would want whoever your pilot is to be fully capable of seeing and doing, you know. You want to make sure that they can do whatever they need to and function correctly. If you've ever ridden a motorcycle that does not have a windshield, or a sport bike without a helmet on, which I don't suggest, you will notice that it's very hard to breathe, even at speeds of 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, just because your body's not made to breathe in air like that. It's just not how we function. So yeah, they wear masks. It's part of what they do. If you look up any sort of military helicopter crew, all their helmets and stuff have masks that they wear over, and that keeps the air in more of a stable, steady state around them and around their face. And then, so that's 2 of those dispelled. And then the fact that they flew in and flew away, well, they saw that they weren't able to land there because they were knocking stuff over. Would you want them to come in and land? Or would you rather them acknowledge the fact that they were making a mistake landing there and then leave, and hopefully y'all clear a better landing zone for the next time? You know, so there's that. So yeah, that kind of dispels a lot of the little myths that people were talking about with it. And what I'm doing here, we're looking at this field that's almost dead center in front of us there. That's what I'm going to target. All this is big and easy to land in. I'm going to pick that smaller one to target there. And something that you can't see, but I have my landing lights on right now. That is something that the helicopters in the video had. They had their landing lights on. They had their navigation lights on, and their strobes were on. They were not hiding. They were not any sort of black ops sort of things. They were a helicopter bringing heavy, bulky items into places that needed those heavy, bulky items. So here I am with my nav lights, with my landing lights on, and I'm scouting this area out of my passenger or co-pilot side window. If there's anybody else in my crew, they would be also helping scout that as we're coming into it. And the by-the-book way to do this is you do a high scouting pass that helps you identify approach paths, the best way to come in and land, and then you do your lower paths, or crosses at a much slower, lower speed. And with this, you'll look for power lines and any sort of debris on the ground that you may have missed, people, or just things that you can't see from the higher altitude. So from what I'm looking like here, disconnected, so we'll make a longer approach path until we reconnect. Okay, reconnected. So yeah, we're carrying near 10,000 pounds of helicopter and supplies. We've done our 2 approach paths, which is what you see in the video, and now we come in and we were going to be more or less at the limits of what this helicopter can do. I am currently all the way up on my collective. See, it does not go any further up there, but I am going to bring it down some. What we have to do, we have to bring our speed way down because we're not coming in like a hot boy thing. And once you get under a certain speed, you lose a lot of lift with the helicopter. Most people think the lift purely comes from the blade spinning and pushing you up. That's not the case. A lot of the lift comes from when you're moving forwards. The entire blade rotor assembly as a whole on the top will act as a giant wing for the helicopter. So as you're moving forward, the air moves over it. And that allows you a transitional lift thing, and as you're moving, you get more lift, so you can do a lot more. It uses a lot less power. But right now, I'm using a lot of the collective. And so what you've seen now, I've moved very slowly at a very low height. And you can imagine a 10,000 plus pound helicopter doing this is creating a lot of wind and a lot of rotor wash coming down. So that, if there were, let me turn this around a little bit so we can kind of look at what my approach path was. So my approach path was coming down over those trees and over that building. It's very well thought to assume that coming down over that, the wind from these rotor systems, or from the rotor system, will be hitting the ground. Now, from what I understand, the landing zone that they were going to had been a good functioning landing zone for the Blackhawks at earlier times, maybe even that day, but for sure earlier days, previous days. And during that time, people had come and they had set up more around that area, I guess, because it's easier to live near the supplies. You don't want to go miles back to where your house is. And they were trying to set up and be closer. And with that, it created the issue of, as you're flying over that area, you're going to be creating a lot more rotor wash over people's valuable things. And that's what ended up causing that issue. Now here, I didn't have any... Here we go, I'm at full collective right now, and I can't get any lift. So I'm going to try to cheat this a bit by putting some forward momentum in here to be able to get up and get moving. But this is just, like I said, I'm at the limits of what this helicopter can produce as power. So yeah, that's what happened with the helicopter there. I mean, you can look at it as malice if you want to, although it's completely unsubstantiated. There's no evidence pointing towards that it was malice, you know, other than the fact that people's stuff blew over. Connection lost. What do you know? Thank you, Elon Musk and Starlink. That's part of me living in the country. You know, I can't always get the best, but, you know, we do the best we can. And I'm looking at my phone next to me right now, and it looks like it's still playing and projecting. Oh, connection back. So either way, I think that the claims, and I'm going to say this with a very, very strong confidence, that the helicopter was not there to sabotage. You have to also remember these helicopters from the National Guard, they're local people. They're fellow North Carolinians, or if you're in South Carolina natives. You know, you're not looking at somebody coming from California. You're not looking at some Black Ops dude from CIA, FBI, or BlackRock. You know, you're looking at somebody who lives an hour away in a town where their mother and their father and their home also had different pieces of debris falling in their yard. You know, maybe their house was hit also. You know, you're not looking at somebody who's completely unconnected to the situation. So it's going to be, of course, there are people who will follow orders regardless, you know. Go and destroy your neighbor's house. Oh, yes, it's because somebody told me. Sure, somebody will do it, you know. It's not a solid argument. But when you look at the fact that the landing lights are on, the nav lights are on, all your strobes and everything were on, they were doing the appropriate approach of doing a high recon, a low recon, also coming in at what would be the safest approach angle for the given terrain. Like I said, it would be almost impossible, if not impossible, for me to enter an out-of-ground effect hover right here and then make my way down to the field. It's just something that this helicopter is not capable of managing with the power that it has and with the weight that it has as far as the payload. You know, it's the people who are looking to say this are looking to cause rifts. And, you know, it happens with everything. They say never let a good disaster go to waste, and sadly that goes both ways. You look at politicians who will use a disaster to further whatever agenda they have, whether it be a legitimate terrorist attack and not a state-funded and hidden one, or some sort of natural disaster. You know, people in a political stance will use it for the wrong way, and sadly enough, people who are not in a political point, but who like to get into the political space as far as discussions and arguments, they will also put in their 2 cents, and they will try to use it to their gain. The people that are calling for the full conspiracies of people sabotaging these LZs or these supply-resupply points, you know, that's a gain that they are arguing for that is hurting a mass of people. Now the North Carolina National Guard is having to jump through huge amounts of red tape and loopholes to be able to bring supplies in. They will have to have somebody from the military on the ground there to coordinate. So if you live out in a rural area where they don't have anybody out there, I'm sorry, you're not going to get bulk bits of supplies. You'll have to wait for somebody in an R44 to bring you water and fruit snacks or whatever small things that they can fit in there, but you're not going to be getting a generator. I'm sorry. And that's just the fact of it, because people are trying to do the right thing, but they're doing it without the evidence that they are doing the right thing, sadly. And now I'm not going to say it's completely impossible. There's always a chance. But with the evidence that's given and seen, and just having a general knowledge of how helicopters work, how approaches work, especially with a heavily payload-loaded helicopter, there's nothing to say that was done with any sort of weird malice. The weather's a different thing. People can argue that. You believe whatever you want to, but at the end of the day, I don't think that the helicopter itself, or the act that was seen in the footage, was something that was done in bad taste. What you can say about the FEMA response, sure, you know, there's a lot of misappropriations of funds happening all there, and I'll give a small bit of an excuse to the National Guard for taking a week to be there, because when that does happen, you have to call in all of your people, which can take 24 hours to 48 hours, depending on what their regulations are. Once they're there, you have to spin up all the equipment, you have to pack up, you have to load up, you have to get the supplies, you have to do all the logistics. So it's more than a 1 or 2 day process, where there were people that I know personally that were driving to the Carolinas the day after it happened. FEMA, on the other hand, they're kind of made to be an emergency management thing, so they should be able to be there immediately. Their response time was disgusting, and they should be ashamed for that. But as far as the National Guard, I don't think they're doing anything wrong in malice. You can think whatever you like. Go back through this video, watch different things. I wish you could see how much power I was attempting to use on this. Disconnected, so we're working on reconnecting. Reconnected. Okay, so we're back. So right now we're under 30 knots. We've lost our transitional lift. I am fully up on my collective right now. I am putting in heavy left pedal to fight the torque of the engine, which I'm still spinning right. There we go. I'm almost full left pedal right there. And you can see my vertical speed is still more than 500 feet per second going down. So let me get a little bit of forward airspeed and see if I can bring this to 0 out and then get into this better. So I'm looking at the vertical speed right above my stick right there. Also, there's radar altitude to the left, but my vertical speed will be a better indicator for right now for what I'm trying to do. Right now, even still moving forward, so I'm completely up on the collective, but I'm not able to hold a hover up here just because there's so much weight. So let's get out of this before we start getting into vortex ring state, which is where you're descending too quickly and the air that moves over the rotors starts feeding back in on itself. So you're not, it's basically it's very hard to explain without visuals. And I don't even want to believe that I'm knowledgeable enough to explain it without visuals. I'm still very novice in a lot of the very, very high-end technical aspects of this. But I do my best, and it's all a learning thing. But yeah, vortex ring state is something that happens when you descend faster than about 300 feet per second, or 3 feet per minute, with not enough forward airspeed to get out of it. It's basically getting stuck in your own wake. You can almost imagine it as the don't stand on a sinking ship because it'll suck you down. Imagine that sort of principle, but with the air and the helicopter blades as you're going down. They get into their own wake and their own turbulence, and they lose the ability to create lift. There's a very good video demonstration of that. If you look up vortex ring state technique, I believe, on YouTube, there's a helicopter where they set up a smoke system where you can very, very well visualize what's happening. And they show a technique on how to get out of it very quickly. Which this particular model doesn't seem to have it modeled as well. Maybe the Huey is just a very stable platform, but you can do it better in like the Fly Inside Bell 206. It's very well modeled in that. So yeah, that's a quick little thing about helicopters with a lot of weight being able to land in little areas, and whether or not that was done in malice or not. If you use your brain a little bit, you don't immediately jump to the 100% conclusion. It's pretty easy to see what the thought process was and is. If you just start at the starting point of looking at the evidence that's there, then it's very easy to see what was happening. And now, I don't know the full history of the lady who posted the video. I believe it was a lady. Whoever they were running dog security with like a German Shepherd working dog at the location of the drop, while there were other people there working and doing more physical labor things. Now, I know there hasn't been a problem or an issue with looting, but as far as I can tell, most of that is for people's houses that are in the woods or abandoned cars. And it's not really a problem at supply drops, because the thing that you're supposed to do at these supply areas is go and get the supplies you need. So it's a bit unsubstantiated in my mind to be running dog security there. So if I'm just completely inferring by things that I see, I would say that that person, that individual, already has the thought process that people are out there to get her or the supplies or them or whatever you want to say. You know, there's everything that's happening is already an issue and already against It's them versus the world. When in reality, you have thousands of people coming in every day, bringing in supplies and offering free labor to work and do things. So I already see her point of view as being a very biased point of view, and especially how she captioned the video. If you look at the next things on there, if you're just looking at things that you see the helicopter doing some bigger recon passes, of course. As they come in, they do have their landing lights on, they do have their nav lights on, so that shows intention to land. It shows that they're not hiding. And then as soon as they start noticing that things are blowing away, you can tell that the place they were trying to land was on the other side of a tree line. So if I can kind of do it down here, I'll try to reenact that little bit. Let's see. So let's say they were coming into this little triangle on the road down here, where the grass is a little bit greener. So let's say that's where all the supplies were. And let's say they were looking to land where it looked like in the video, where it looked like they were trying to get to the other side of this tree line that's over where that little hut of a house is. So as they were coming over here, the air crew is going to be looking for obstructions for the blades and obstructions for the tail rotor if he needs to turn. And the pilot himself will be looking at the trees itself, as well as if there were power lines or light poles. So they're all going to be looking more or less heads up, since they're not trying to land directly down. So it makes sense that after a few seconds of noticing, oh crap, we're blowing some stuff up, that they would then work on pulling out. So they do have the few seconds there of taking time to notice. And that could have been done better. It was an evening time landing, so you know they've been doing this all day. And a little bit of fatigue comes into effect there. And I know everybody who's been there and been affected by this is very fatigued as far as surviving what's going on. But yeah, you need to look at all the information that's going around. You need to look at everything that's given and not make any assumptions onto what's happening before looking at the evidence. Incorrect heading, don't care. So it's something I want everybody to think about before sharing stuff. I know it kind of goes back to the Boog times, back in late 2019 and in the 2020s during the entire country shutdowns and riots, where people would immediately see, hey, there's somebody who's getting their door knocked on by a police officer. It's obviously a red flag law, so we're going to try to go and help them and give them assistance of whatever way. You know, it's people sharing stuff before they know completely what's going on, or even they're just doing it by emotion. You know, you see it, you're already fired up for the cause, and you want to share something because it's something that gave you the feeling, it's something that gave you that fire to go out and do relief work. It's something that gave you that fire to go out and go to a protest wearing your body armor. And I'm not going to say I'm above that. You know, I wasn't in the movement, but I did share a good number of those memes as the time was proper for it. But especially us that are outside of this area of everything happening, we need to take the time and look. We're not in a life or death situation where we can't take more than 5 seconds to slow down and check what we're looking at. You know, we are all better than the people we see on Facebook and the people we see on Instagram posting AI generated pictures and images of things that are happening, and we're better than that. You know, if everybody took a few seconds to use their brain before sharing that video or commenting on it or trying to push whatever thought process you wanted to push with it, then we could have saved a lot of headache from this entire situation and probably saved a few lives as well, if you're looking at the lack of supplies that are now going to be getting into some of these areas because there is no military presence on the ground. So we need to start looking at that. You know, we have a supercomputer in our pocket at all times with our phones, so we're more than capable of re-watching the video once or twice and saying, oh cool, look, he did have his landing lights on. Oh cool, look, he was going over an approach path. He was doing everything by the book as far as he was supposed to do to get into the location that he was going to get into. you know. And if everybody were to have looked at that the first time, then it would have been a much easier thing for people to process when the video got posted. But, you know, here we are, and now supplies aren't going to be able to get in as efficiently as it was doing before. And now there's nothing wrong with the privatized helicopters going in and bringing stuff in, but there are going to be limits as far as what they can get in and the amount of stuff they can get in, and that's something that's now an issue. All because people couldn't be bothered to spend a few seconds and, you know, think about it, use common sense. But yeah, I just wanted to do this quick stream for everybody. We'll figure out something to do that's not this and not a serious talk. But I wanted to get this out real quick first, just because it's something that is fresh on my mind. I'm already not arguing, but discussing this with people in my DMs about different things. But yeah, if you learn something, if you want to say something about it, feel free to comment, subscribe. You know, liking this helps out a whole bunch, just because it's able to get this video out to more, so there can be more mature discussions about what's going on. And hopefully, you know, we can do better next time. Hopefully everybody's able to slow down for a second and see what's going on before choosing to do something different. So yeah.